that terrorism seeks to attack our liberal democratic values, no matter what our involvement in East Timor, Afghanistan or Iraq.
You right, fellas?
The government was clearly pleased.
We did that downstairs, but I'm delighted to do it again.
I have total confidence in the Federal Police Commissioner. I think he's doing an excellent job.
He is an outstanding Australian. He'll go down in history as one of the great police commissioners.
Some could argue there was an opportunity lost for the AFP to make a bigger point.
So do you think the Commissioner was seen to buckle too easily?
I think some took that view, and I believe some of our members took that view.
So you're saying, in effect, it's their job to do the bidding of the government?
Their job is to work within the framework of policy, subject, of course, to not breaking the law.
So is it their job to do the bidding of government as long as it's legal?
In my view, it is.
How do police feel about being seen to be used for a political agenda?
It's probably the greatest insult you could give a constable, and to, as an organisation, to be accused of doing a government's bidding is an insult to an entire organisation.
Commissioner Kelty declined repeated requests by Four Corners to discuss the issues raised in this program. The AFP is quick to reject any criticism and employs a large media management team to promote its successes.
The AFP's management of the media is very good. It seems to me that whenever there's a bad news story about to happen, suddenly there's a drug bust or a pedophile bust or something like that that happens on the day or very proximate to the bad news that's coming out and drowns out the bad news.
A recent case was the seizure of more than 5 tonnes of ecstasy, trumpeted by the AFP in August as the world's biggest bust.
There was a period of time where we got excited about 10 kilos, and now we're talking about tonnage.
Selected reporters were tipped off about the raids in advance, and the AFP released its own footage of federal agents in action. But behind the scenes was a very different story. Victorian detectives who'd worked on the case were so furious at what they saw as the AFP's grandstanding that one of them fired off an internal grievance report to set the record straight. According to this account, the seizure was the work of VicPol, the Australian Crime Commission and Customs, with virtually no help from the AFP. It says the federal police failed to honour an assurance of providing intelligence, refused to form a joint task force, and initially said they could not assist. By this account, it was only after the massive stash was found that the AFP demanded control of the investigation in a deliberate strategy to manipulate the situation to falsely claim full credit by the AFP.
We do have a poisonous relationship between the AFP and the state forces because of this competition for publicity and credit for their work. And of course, the only people who suffer from that are the public.
Within the AFP's own ranks, there are loyal and long-serving insiders who've grown deeply disillusioned with how the force operates. Jerry Fletcher is a serving AFP officer who's been 33 years in the job. He holds a master's degree in prevention of transnational crime and is recognised internationally as an organised crime expert. In 2004, he was awarded the Australia Day Medallion for his loyalty and dedication.
It's been my life. It's been work that you can go and do and you feel you're achieving or you have achieved.
But it all came crashing down one day in May 2005.
Jerry rang me at work on the late Friday afternoon. He said, "I've been suspended from the AFP." He was in shock.
And what was your reaction?
I said, "You've got to be kidding me. You've been with the AFP 30 years. You've got to be kidding me."
6 weeks earlier, Fletcher had had a meeting in a coffee shop with a well-known drug dealer who was under investigation by the AFP. Fletcher had previously been counselled about meeting informers alone and had been told not to meet this particular criminal. He reported the meeting afterwards to his superiors as per AFP rules. But when the drug dealer disappeared a month later, causing the collapse of the investigation, Fletcher was accused of tipping off the target. The accusation was false. It was made directly to Commissioner Kelty by New South Wales Crime Commission officer Mark Standen, who has since been arrested and charged with being part of a drug importation conspiracy.
There was a false allegation made against Jury. His integrity was questioned after 30 years. His reputation was trashed.
An internal inquiry found Fletcher had not released any information or engaged in corrupt behaviour. But the AFP sacked him anyway, claiming his meeting with the drug dealer brought discredit on the federal police.
And I just couldn't get over that. After 32 years, to me, I felt like it was a frame-up, that it was a preconceived outcome before the investigation started.
Fletcher's dismissal was overturned by the Industrial Relations Commission, which found it was harsh and not done for a valid reason.
And split up the days as well.
The AFP gave him a job back, answering phones.
To me, every investigation has to have integrity. Every investigation has to be accountable and transparent. Now, with the Australian government giving a section of money, an amount of money I should say, to the AFP to maintain integrity, it's that is so that integrity cannot be interfered with or moulded to what they want. My case shows, I would suggest, that they're not getting their value for their money.
He may well be risking his job again by speaking out.
Oh, they won't like it. They don't like anyone talking to the media. They don't like anyone airing anything in public. They have this secret society. And if you speak out, then they castigate you.
I believe that there were many senior people who believed the jury was the subject of a witch hunt, but no one had the avenue to actually be able to go and say, this is wrong. Because if you put your head up, you're going to be in the same position as jury. Because you have a culture headed by a commissioner who doesn't like to be told he's wrong.
Mick Kelty's style of leadership is the subject of growing debate within and outside the AFP. Kelty's admirers describe a dedicated workaholic, hands-on to a fault, who inspires intense loyalty and has built the AFP into a force to be reckoned with.
He's probably been the police commissioner who's been under the most intense pressure and media scrutiny of any commissioner.
Even with some of the issues that we've identified today, he's been, in my view, the best commissioner the AFP's had.
There's a large percentage of the
Kelty's detractors talk of a presidential-style leader who won't tolerate dissent and shuns advice contrary to his own views.
Well, the AFP is essentially run by an all-powerful CEO. There is no understanding of somebody who raises a loyal voice in opposition or disputes a decision. It is essentially an authoritarian organisation, and anyone who's seen to question the current line that comes from the leader's office, if you like, and I might even describe it as a cult of personality, very soon finds themselves on the outer. And there are a number of very talented, very good people that I know of in recent years or over the years that have left the AFP because they've dared to voice a dissenting opinion.
The job of policing the AFP falls to the Commonwealth Ombudsman and the Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity, a new agency with a modest budget and only 12 staff. Ombudsman John McMillan says it's not an easy task.
I have a very professional relationship with the Australian Federal Police, but I do find it more of a challenge than I find it with other Commonwealth agencies. My office is more likely to be told, including from senior levels, that we're wasting the time of police and that we're dwelling on trivialities.
In his latest report, the Ombudsman describes one instance where an AFP agent began a sexual relationship with a female informant, and another where a number of police being posted overseas swore false statutory declarations to support each other's passport applications. In both cases, the AFP was unwilling to admit its members had done anything wrong.
And our view very strongly was that it was inappropriate. If police are required to uphold the law, they need to uphold it individually and collectively in all instances. There's an old adage, a true one, that those who bend the rules end up breaking them. And so it is very important to take a stern line at any inappropriate behaviour by those who have the responsibility of enforcing the law.
The most intense scrutiny of the AFP's performance has been prompted by its role in implementing Australia's new counter-terrorism laws. Since September 11, no fewer than 44 new anti-terror laws have been passed. Commissioner Kelty has been a vocal advocate of the new laws.
We obviously support the new legislation being passed.
There's been markedly less enthusiasm on the part of working police.
The laws are alien to decades, indeed, 100 years of policing experience. They're alien to the Office of Constable. They are complex, procedurally very complex laws. You add enough procedures or complexity into a process and the likelihood of a technical error increases.
With the focus back on national security,
AFP management has been eager to use the new laws. In one case, an officer testified the police were directed to lay as many charges under the new legislation against as many suspects as possible to test the laws.
I think that the AFP's been under very substantial pressure. It's been under pressure to produce results. And by that, most people mean arrests and charges.
I think when you have to rely on extraordinary powers, and at the same time you see a loss of skilled investigation capacity from the organisation, frequently as morale plummets, the reliance on extraordinary powers can sometimes make for a lazy investigator.
Australia's biggest terrorism trial ended last month in Melbourne with mixed results. 7 men convicted, another 4 acquitted, and 1 to face a retrial.
It's wonderful to live in a democracy where a jury obviously pays this level of attention to matters like this and work this hard.
The convictions were an important win for the police after a series of failed prosecutions, like the case of Sydney medical student Izar al-Haq. His charges of doing terrorist training were dismissed when Justice Adams ruled that he had been kidnapped and falsely imprisoned by ASIO agents and subjected to oppressive conduct by federal police.
This has been a moronic prosecution right from the start. The terror laws were introduced supposedly to capture terrorists, not brilliant young men like Izar al-Haq. From the beginning, this was no more than a political show trial designed to justify the billions of dollars spent on counter-terrorism.
After the collapse of the al-Haq case, Commissioner Kelty ordered an inquiry presided over by retired New South Wales Chief Justice Sir Lawrence Street, who now works as a professional mediator. What was Commissioner Kelty's brief to you when he set up your inquiry?
Well, it's in his terms of reference. The terms of reference are there in the report, but it certainly didn't include, and I made this very clear at the outset, we were not investigating Al-Haq.